Hello everybody and welcome to another Doctor Who review. This time I'm reviewing a story from the Fifth Doctor, Peter Davison, and this time he goes to Amsterdam. Arc of Infinity, the first story of season 20 of Doctor Who. And as always I have here the television companion, so I'm about to go read the synopsis for this story. An antimatter creature has crossed into normal space via a phenomenon known as the Arc of Infinity, but needs to bond physically with a Time Lord in order to remain stable. A traitor on Gallifrey has chosen the Doctor as the victim. A High Council, headed by President Barusa, decides that the Doctor's life must be terminated in order to avoid this danger. Tegan, meanwhile, arrives in Amsterdam to visit her cousin, Colin Fraser, only to learn that he has disappeared. She enters a crypt in search of him, and is captured by a hideous creature, the Ergon. On Gallifrey, the traitor is revealed as Councillor Hedin, and his master as a legendary Time Lord figure Omega, who has been trapped for centuries in the universe of antimatter. Omega seizes control of the Matrix. The Doctor, however, is able to trace him to Amsterdam thanks to clues received via the Matrix from Tegan, who has been taken to Omega's TARDIS by the Ergon. Omega's body is turning into a replica of the Doctor's, but the bonding is incomplete, and there will soon be a massive explosion as he reverts to antimatter. The Doctor, Nyssa and Tegan chase Omega through Amsterdam and eventually corner him. Omega wills his own destruction, but the Doctor fires the Ergon's matter converter at him and he fades harmlessly away. So, Arc of Infinity. We have the first story of Peter Davison's second season as a Doctor, season 20 of Doctor Who. This is the season where there's a recurring enemy in every story. They kind of get away with that with the Guardians halfway through the series. So it's kind of weird the way they do that. But it's not a bad wee start. I enjoy the story. I've got a slight soft spot for it, but it's not the strongest of Doctor Who stories, and I'll admit that straight off. It is a little bit lacking at times, and the first couple of episodes do bore me a little bit with some of the politics that goes on Gallifrey. Overall, though, it's an enjoyable enough romp. A lot of running, as Doctor Who would have at that point, and a lot of running in Amsterdam. Locations that are used are not too bad, but there are better examples in Classic Who of foreign locations being used. It is the first time the Doctor has been abroad in 3 years, 4 years almost, because City of Death was the first time that Doctor Who went abroad, and that was in Paris. Same idea though, running around streets, they're not really going anywhere in that respect. They use the transportation system a little bit better in City Death than they do in Arc of Infinity. They could have used the tram to get places, a few places I suppose, but there we are. But that's just the nature of the story. It is a promotional thing as much as anything else, and as much as you may not like John Nathan Turner for his producership, he was very good at being canny in his marketing of the programme and keeping it in the public eye, and certainly this is an example of that. Overall though, let's go into the cast and just see what each of the main cast members, I thought of them, what their acting style was and the characters. Let's start off of course with the Doctor, Peter Davison. He's certainly settled into the role by now, and I think he works the best here in regards to his companions he has, because he's got with him Nyssa, who I personally think is the companion that would have fitted the Fifth Doctor better. She's quite placid and very intelligent. It's very akin to Romana and the Fourth Doctor in regards to their relationship, in regards to the scientific element of it. There's not as any flirtation there. He sees her as a little sister, and there's not a potential partner or best friend in that respect, like he would in Sarah Jane Smith or people like Ace, a friend as such. It's more like a teacher-mentor functionality here. But Peter plays it well. He's got a bit of a dual role here at the fourth episode as well, because he plays Omega when Omega transforms, and also obviously the Doctor as well. It's solid enough, and Peter Davison always brings a good performance in what he does, and I don't understand why some people don't quite like the Fifth Doctor's portrayal. He's calmed down from the visitation time, and he's probably not been antagonised, I suppose the thing is, because Tegan's not there for most of it, so he's kind of not antagonised by Tegan as much, and you see the softer, gentler side of the Fifth Doctor, which I quite enjoy in this story when you have just Nyssa on board. Speaking of Nyssa, Sarah Sutton, one of my favourite companions, Nyssa. very genteel, very pretty, but that's always might be my personal opinion. And actually shines in this one. She's given a lot of meaty stuff to do, and the pleading bit after the just when the Doctor gets sentenced for termination, the second episode is very well performed, and yeah, she was a little bit petulant when she realises when she thinks the Doctor's dead, and her reaction to some of the High Council. But what do you expect? You know, her best friend has just been killed, and she's on her own effectively, which is really sorrowful. But Sarah Sutton makes a great performance, and I think this is her story. I feel sorry for her though, because it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from anecdotes, she didn't like the running bit, and you can see every single shot. Nissa is about 5 legs behind the other two. It's a bit bad at times, but overall, it's not a horrible performance. It's quite a charming performance, and certainly the best that Sarah Sutton has to do since The Visitation, in my personal opinion. The last time Nissa had something relevant to do and interesting to do was The Visitation, and this is the first time since then that she's actually done something which I think really fits in with her character and really works. Then we've got Jeanette Fielding is back with Tegan. She didn't appear to the second episode. Now, if you don't know, Time Flight, she kind of got abandoned by the Doctor at Heathrow, because the Doctor thought that she wanted to work, go back to her airline job, because that's what the whole plot point and arc was of the first series, of season 19, was Tegan wanted to get back to Heathrow. The Doctor does it and leaves her. But then Tegan arrives in Amsterdam, happens to meet up with the Doctor. She is key to the Doctor finding Omega on Earth at the time, and where it is, and who it is, and why. And the Doctor's managing to get to find Omega through Tegan. So she has been a useful plot point here. And to be fair, Tegan's not annoying here. Jeanette Fielding has always played Tegan brilliantly, and as an enjoyable companion, even though she grates a little bit. She's got spots that maybe Nicola Bryant's Perry doesn't, in regards to the irritability. It's reason irritability. It's more like a concern and a worry. Janet Fielding plays it quite well, and I love the fact that her and Robin Stewart, who we'll get to later, she kind of works like a pseudo doctor with him and tries to help him find her cousin in that respect, and I quite like that dynamic you've got there. Then you've got some of the guest cast. You've got Lennox Sachs, a well-known actor, playing Barusa. Understated, but regal. This is certainly a gentler Barusa than we've seen in the previous 2 occasions we've seen him in Invasion of Time and The Deadly Assassin. He's not as pompous here. He does have a good authority with him, and when he needs to be ruthless, he is ruthless, and he plays it very well, and it's an enjoyable watch to see. You then got Michael Gough, who plays Hedden. Michael Gough's not a stranger to Doctor Who. He played the Celestial Toymaker back in the 60s, and it's a nice little turn here, nice restrained turn. A misguided Time Lord, I suppose, when in fact he's bringing Omega back and causing all sorts of untold destruction. But his heart's in the right place in some respects, and Michael Gough plays him well. You've then got the great guest character of Omega. Ian Collier takes over from Stephen Thorne here, and his voice just makes the part. It sounds a little muffled behind the mask, but do you know what? It's a brilliant voice, and it's a brilliant portrayal of Omega, and makes him seem more sinister than the shouty man that you get in the Three Doctors. And he plays it quite brilliantly, and I like Ian Collier's portrayal of Omega over Stephen Thorne's in that respect. And if you ever get to listen to the Big Finish audio drama Omega, he uses his voice to its full potential in that, and he really is engaging. He's an engaging enemy, and I love the characterization of Omega, that he wants to come home, which is fair enough, and then when he does get a taste of being back in this reality, he enjoys the surroundings of Amsterdam. I love the hurdy-gurdy scene where they're doing the when he's listening to the hurdy-gurdy, and this boy turns around and smiles at him, and kind of akin to Frankenstein's monster, which is really lovely, and I like that. Point to him in that respect. Then we've got the biggest guest casting and probably the most interesting guest casting. Colin Baker as Maxwell. Now, obviously, Colin Baker hadn't become the Doctor yet. That was still in his future. But my God, he makes it. I mean, Maxwell is a job's worth, and he's a bit of a job's worth as well, and that will be beeped, I think. But do you know what? It's really enjoyable. And yeah, it's a little bit OTT, and I'm not going to turn around and say otherwise. But do you know what? I can tolerate it, and I really do tolerate it. And I think Colin Baker does a good turn as Maxwell in that respect. And yeah, all power to him, because it's an interesting performance that's put forward here by Colin Baker, and it does work. It certainly does work for the need and the want of the part. And yeah, this you kind of love to hate him in this story, which is really nice in that respect. You then got the other High Council members. You've got Paul Jericho, who plays Castellan, very slimy, very establishment centred, very security centred. I like Paul Jericho's part of this, and I love the fact he comes back later on in the Five Doctors. I did enjoy it's not as enjoyable in the Five Doctors as here. I love his scheming and the way he's trying to get down to the bottom of this, and the fact he wrongly assumes the Doctor's involved in getting Omega back when it first becomes apparent. You've then got Elspeth Grey with Thalia. She's okay. Dignified performance. She doesn't really do much apart from that loop that she puts in to help the Doctor, pulse loop that the Doctor uses to get away from Gallifrey, so Omega doesn't detect him in part 4. Then you've got Max Harvey, who plays Zorak, and Zorak is the one which I love, that little reference he has, where as soon as the Doctor comes back, there's always violence on Gallifrey. He always causes the violence, and then Hedden has to correct him and say, no, well, if you give him an armed guard, what do you expect? And I do like that part. And yeah, he's just a ranting civil servant, effectively, at the end of the day, but it's played quite well by Max Harvey, and I quite liked it. Then you've got Neil Dalglish, who plays Damon, and Damon is he Andred-esque? Maybe, I don't know, but he's a lower functionary when it comes to store. What is it? Is it security, or is it? I can't. It's not really clear what his role is, but he plays it well enough, and it's not an offensive performance. Then you've got Andrew Boxer, who plays Robin Stewart, who actually is a little bit grating in the first part, because he's kind of like, yeah, we'll find this place, this is lovely, let's go here. But he comes in his own when he's working with Tegan, and Andrew Boxer plays him quite nicely. And then you've got Alistair Cumming, who plays Colin Fraser, Tegan's cousin. Doesn't really do much. He's effectively a zombie for most of the story, and is a bit wet, which is a bit weird for an Aussie. But he's a bit wet, and he's kind of ineffectual. But Alistair Cumming plays the character well enough. And then you've got honourable mention to Malcolm Harvey, who plays Yergon. Not the best design of Doctor Who. It looks like, I love the fact it's been referenced in the story, it's one of Omega's less successful creations, because Omega is known for making things from his will. And I love that kind of meta comment that comes in there from the rubbishness of the design, comes in from a comment for the Doctor saying it wasn't the best effort ever. And yeah, it's not ideal. It's not fun. Production-wise, it's pretty solid. A lot of running down corridors, and Ron Jones does the running corridors things quite well. I'm not quite sure of the Gallifrey setting, though, because it looks like just basically a couple of alcoves with lighting and sofas, alongside some very 80s aesthetic architecture. And it's functional, it serves a purpose. The debating chamber and the termination chamber are not too badly done, but overall the design is not ideal. The best design is actually the crypt, where Omega is residing. That's actually quite good. And when Doctor Who does gothic stuff, especially older looking stuff, it certainly works better than the more modern, futuristic stuff that they have on Gallifrey. The story overall is not badly written. It's a lot more scientific based than what you get with some of the stories of this part of Peter Davison's time. It's written by Johnny Byrne, who created Nyssa, in Nyssa Tarkin, and he's put together quite well. He was told you got to include Amsterdam. He puts the contrivance of the Arc Infinity being at this part is in Amsterdam, which helps Omega go between worlds. That's an interesting point. The music by Roger Lim, it's not ideal. This is okay for Roger Lim. Some of his later stuff with his very sawtooth synth is a little bit grating at times, although of course Roger Lim did the music for Caves of Androzani, so he can do good stuff. And the Tulips of Amsterdam music you hear when you first see Amsterdam and the scene setting is actually quite nice. It's more, it's not really any tunes as such. It's more like leitmotifs to the music and just punctuation of the scenes, which is fairly much what you get at this time. You don't really get much bombasticness unless you don't really get much bombasticness of scores. That's more Peter Howell's thing. But yeah, no, it's ineffectual. It's okay, and it works okay for me. But overall, it's enjoyable. I'll watch it. Although this time round, when I watched it, I was a little bored for a bit of part 1 and a bit of part 2. But I started getting to it from part 3. So maybe it's the move. Sometimes I enjoy it, sometimes I don't. And that's probably why I'm going to do an straight down the middle 3 TARDISes out of 5. Okay, so let's see how this stacks up against all the other stories reviewed so far in the series. Arc of Infinity sits at 3 TARDISes out of 5, alongside The Idiot's Lantern and Battlefield. Time Lash still holds the bottom, with 2.5 TARDISes out of 5. At the top are still 6 stories, at 4.5 TARDISes out of 5. The Happiness Patrol, Inferno, The Day of the Doctor, The Caves of Androzani, The Tomb of the Cybermen, and Dalek. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and share it with the hashtag teamstructor, and also hit that subscribe button if you like the channel as a whole, and hit the notifications bell so you know when a new video comes out. General, it's 4 PM GMT on a Sunday. And if you have your own views on Arc of Infinity, leave a comment down below. And the links to all the other reviews are up in the top right hand corner there, so go check it out. Until next time, thanks guys for watching as always. Next week is a Kids Doctor with me and Fraser. Kind of done a Zoom socially distanced one, so hopefully you can join me for that. Until next time, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you later.